Hello, my name is Chris Seglo, and this is the first of many videos to come and stories about my book that I just completed, which is called Running with Rainbows, The Afterlife and Other Stories. Much of my life has been spent in what some call unordinary, as I come from a very psychic family. My grandmother was a well-known psychic in Laguna Beach, California, and she often did readings, and she also held seances. And so my life, I have grown up with these kinds of ideas, and I thought everybody lived this way, but then I found out at various times from going here to there that not everybody understood my way of thought or my way of life. But thankfully, my grandparents and my parents encouraged me to continue on with what I have inherited and not to find that there's something different about it just because not everybody talks about it. But I'd like to begin with telling you about my first story, which is about my book. And it's about the afterlife, and it starts off with my mother. And she passed away quite a few years ago, and she took me with her for 2.5 hours to heaven. She was in the hospital, and she had been there for a while, and she happened to be in the same room that my dad had passed away in 3 years earlier. And when she went into the room, and they all said, "Oh, we're so sorry that we're putting you in this room," and she just said, "No, he knows where to come and find me." Well, she had cancer, and she'd been struggling, so we knew that time was near. And like I mentioned, grown up with many ideas about things and many open-minded concepts about life and death. And so we knew things were coming, but I did not know that I was going to experience what was soon to happen. She had called me in the morning and asked me to please come to the hospital. Something had happened during the night. She'd been in the hospital for a couple of weeks. And so I went down town to our local hospital, 9 in the morning, and she was waiting for me. She said, "God appeared to me this morning and is still sitting here by my right foot. I can just feel it and see it." So we talked about that a little bit, about what had happened, and started talking about how she was a little bit excited, breathing heavy. And I'd been teaching aerobic classes, and so we talked about how breathing would really help, where she was kind of feeling at that moment. So we did some time doing breath work. And then we started talking about what we could see over the television set. There was, it looked like an orange grove and a church and a chef in front. We talked about who could the chef be. Was it maybe my grandpa? No, maybe it was the creator. Well, we just figured that we would soon find out. So she asked me to read some of her stories that are from her cards, and I put them up on the wall, which was about 15 feet away from her. She didn't have her glasses on, and she could read the cards, the front of the cards, and she also knew what was on the inside of them. And I thought, wow, something's strange going on here because she's doing something different. And then she started talking about the smoke. Well, just before that happened, the clouds outside became very dark. It was going to rain at any moment, a very, very dark day. And I had put a crystal on one of her cards that someone had sent, and a rainbow came into the room. And she started talking about the smoke. "Can you see the smoke? The smoke, the smoke. Can you see the smoke?" And no, I couldn't see the smoke, but she felt it going inside of her, and she's hot, but it's okay. And then she started doing things with her hands, and I said, "So what are you doing now?" And she said, "Well, I'll tell you later." So she told me that she could only see me in the room. A priest had come in just a little bit earlier and talked with her, and she told the priest too that I can't see you anymore. And so the priest left. So she continued to tell me how bright I was. She said, I can't see anything other than you. She said, you are glowing like a Christmas tree. You are filled with the most brightest lights all around you and in you. They're everywhere. And so we talked about that a little bit. And then she started to breathe heavy. And we told each other that we loved each other. And then she went into, she would just, her head was turning side to side. I knew she was seeing wonderful things. And my thought at the time was that, well, maybe I could feel and almost see like a tunnel, and it was full of flowers. And she loved flowers and trees. And if you knew my mom, first of all, she was not leaving this world without having the last word. And so she was getting it at this time. And she was one that loved stopping the car and having to look at a beautiful tree. And she just loved the beauty and the landscaping of all life. And I felt that she was maybe seeing all these things, as well as maybe seeing loved ones that she was experiencing time with that she hadn't maybe seen for a long time. I just knew something like that was happening. And the room began to change. It became warm. And again, this is a very dark day. It looked like it was going to rain at any moment. And it started to get warm inside the room. And the most beautiful, beautiful golden light filled the room. I cannot explain to you how beautiful that this light was. It was just like no words in our dictionary can describe it. It was so beautiful. And the love that I felt with it was indeed powerful. And I can't even use any words that would describe that either. There were some times that I did outlandish things and wondered why anybody loved me. I knew what love was, and I knew that this was love, and it was more than I'd ever experienced. I started to think, okay, something's going on here. The beeping machine was still happening. My mom was still in her glory, looking at side to side, ohing and everything. She just couldn't contain the beauty that she was seeing, even though her eyes were closed, but she was just in the rapture of it all. And so I thought, well, what would my dad want me to do? He said prayers with me every night before bed growing up. So I started to say the Lord's Prayer over and over and over again. And still at the same time, in my other mind, wondering what was happening to me and what was going on with her. Here, she's my mom, and I knew that maybe this was it. This was the last time that we'd be together. But yet it was such a beautiful moment. And she continued to have her expressions of joy, and I could experience the light and the love that I just, again, cannot even say enough about. And then my body started to feel different. I felt like the flame in the light of a candle, that it just grew bigger. I could see it. I could see it with my, I don't know, you call it inside eyes. I could see this beautiful flame that was getting bigger. It was a beautiful big flame. And I questioned that too. And I questioned what was happening here. That was I maybe in her womb again? I met her the first time in her womb. Maybe I was leaving and with her. So you question things, because I wasn't sure what was really occurring at the moment, other than it was a beautiful time, at a time that was going to be sad as well. So I continued to say the Lord's Prayer, and then that beautiful flame that was inside of me came out. I saw it right in front of me, and I'm thinking, wow, what is this? I mean, I saw it. It was just there, just plain as day. And so I heard the words, just different kind of words, kind of like when we can talk to each other. And the words I heard was, I am the Son of God. You are the Son of God. And then this appeared in front of me. And my first thought was that I'm the what? And is this Jesus? Is the Christ light? Is this what this is inside of me? That I'm the Son of God and I'm the Christ light. My dad told me my whole life that my name was Christine. He didn't like it when I went to Chris because he said the Christ light was in me at birth, and he named me that because of that. So all these things were going around in my mind during this time, that she was still oohing and eyeing and looking like she could see more beautiful things that were around her. And so I continued to say the Lord's Prayer and seeing what was happening to me, this heat that was in my body. My eyes became drier, and then this white comes off, and I hear these words, "You are the Son of God." And at that time, my dad appeared next to me, and as he did in real life, and I could feel his arm over my shoulder and leaning into me, and he finished saying the Lord's Prayer with me. And then when that ended, I saw my mom leave her form of her body, and he left with her. And then the room became dark, and I was aware that my feet were on the floor. And I don't know where they'd been up until that time, but now I was seeing the room differently. And I looked at the clock, and it was 2.5 hours later through all this that had happened. So I'm telling you this in the kind of a fast story, but it was really much slower than what I just said. I went out to the hallway and told the nurse that my mother had just passed away. And she came in and said, "I'll just leave you alone." So I called my family, and they stood with me as we watched her breathe for another hour. So I didn't know what to think. Why did this happen to me? I grew up in this family that was open-minded and could tell me so many things that was different for a lot of people, but this is something I'd never heard about before, and I wanted answers. And so I asked the Episcopal priest when I saw him right after that, what was that? And all he said was, "She saw the smoke. She saw the smoke." Yeah, she saw the smoke. He said, "Well, in the Bible, there's many places where God appears, and he comes in the form of smoke." And he said, "It doesn't matter if anybody believes you or not about this story, because I believe that your mother loved you so much. She wanted you to see heaven. She wanted you to see the light. And it's a beautiful thing that you've experienced this." But that still wasn't enough. I still wanted answers. So the next day, I went running with my dog, Sitka. And I went up in the mountain, and I kept asking and questioning, why did this happen to me? I want to know right now. Well, spirits came to me. They were rainbow in color, that they appeared. I could see them kind of this part of my eyes in my head. They were right in front of me. And since that time, I've looked into what these spirits could be and to describe who they were. And what I've come up with is that these spirits were called Elohim, and who are the builders of the universe. They explained to me what had happened to me and talked to me about so many other things that I hadn't even thought about. And they totally made me feel at ease about everything I had experienced. I did ask them a question about suicide. Did people that took their life, did they have this experience that my mother did? Did they see this beautiful, beautiful light? And did they feel like that, like I did? And they said yes, that they do. And they said there were two different kinds of suicide. One was a conscious side, where people we've heard about that they can take their life in some way to shoot themselves or do something that they consciously perform. The other one is subconscious suicide. They said that we have the innate ability to end our life when we felt that we've reached our time. Our body knows how to shut itself down when we feel that there's no need to live any longer. And this can be a confusing message to our system, because what it was originally, and this is how they even explained it to me, that if you traveled in a tribe, they kind of showed this to me, that when a person is maybe ill, sick, or injured, and they couldn't continue on to help the tribe get to a place in and where they could get out of cold weather and into warmer weather. And they would say, well, my time is up. And nobody said, well, don't die or don't do this. And they'd all have a party for them and celebrate their life and all the wonderful things that they had done. And then by the next morning, oftentimes that spirit's life was gone. And this is what we can do also, that when we start not sending a live message to ourselves, our body can start to shut down. Every single day, we have this great ability to repair ourselves. We wear ourselves down with use. Our stomach wears down with food. And when we move and do things, our cells wear down. And then tonight, we make new ones. And so we have a death, and then we have a birth of new cells. And when we send messages that we no longer want to live, that I don't like myself, I'm too this, I'm too that, I'm useless, and I wish I could die, then it sends this message that we want it to be our time. And so our body can stop healing itself every night like it is used to. And sometimes people just end up getting very sick first, and then they go to the doctor and get pills to stay alive until their body finally shuts down. So they explained this to me, and they continued to tell me more things, and I felt comfortable with it and finally had some answers. And then when I started to go down the hill again and to run, then they said that I wasn't going to remember what they had told me, that I wasn't ready yet on my path to really understand all the information that I had just received. Well, I don't know about you, but I argued with them. And how do you argue with spirits and some that are so beautiful as they are? And said, I want to know these things. I've been doing these things, and I can handle this. And they said, you've seen the beauty of death. Now teach people how to live. And then too, oh my gosh, I've already been doing that. I've been a wellness coach. I've been teaching people for a long time on how to make good choices. And I felt like I had been able to do that. And so I wanted to know and all the information that they had given to me. Well, much did come after that. And first of all, what happened to me at that moment was that I walked out of that golden bubble again that I had been in the day before, not realizing that I had been in that golden bubble the whole time I ran with them. And then I came home, and again, there was not a minister or a priest or anybody that I didn't search and find out about what this is. And soon after that, I had been watching a television show, and I saw three men talk about what they called a near-death experience and how they had died in different ways and then came back to life. And everything they described was what I had experienced with my mom, a near-death experience, except I didn't die. She did. So I started looking again more into this, and so I heard about more near-death experiences and the afterlife from my friend Danny Brinkley, who was just at that time talking about his experience as he had been hit by lightning and came back after 28 minutes of being dead. And then I also found James Van Praagh, who's written many books about the afterlife, talking to heaven. And so I found them both and could have conversations with them about what I had experienced and to have some idea. I also found out that Raymond Moody, who wrote Life After Life, described my experience as an empathic near-death experience. So I didn't go. But as far as all the things that happened to me and with near-death experience and people that had gone and come back, and then they'd also seen spirit helpers or guides when the time that they were dead. And I did too. I saw the rainbow spirits the next day after my mother passed away. And so I felt like I had the same thing happen to me, but yet I was alive. And since that time, I have had endless experiences with psychic abilities. And then I'd had them before, but that was even greater now. And I visit with the afterlife. I can find them at funerals and memorials, and sometimes people come to my house and and ask if I can contact loved ones or friends that have passed away. I have talked with people who I've helped different people transition, my brother and the children, and I even had conversations with somebody that had been murdered and got more story about what happened. The other thing that I've really noticed is that my life became much more peaceful, that this is something that people with near-death experience talk about as well, that they become more peaceful about life and want to go out and do things to help people and to bring calmness to their life and to bring happiness as much as I can. And so I've been doing that much more. I've been trained with trauma and mental health and addiction because I've experienced around people that have had that too. And I have found that I helped make changes in their lives. I helped them to come out of their difficult ways of life to living again. And I've also read some different information about life after life, and also the dying, that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote the book about death and dying, said that the hundreds of people that she'd been with at the end of life fought life the most because they hadn't truly lived yet. And they found that dying was something that they weren't ready for yet. And so they fought it because they just realized that they hadn't done the things that they had wished that they could do. And then Henry David Thoreau wrote one of his quotes was, "Oh, to reach the point of death and find you've never lived at all." And I'm talking about this today, not just to tell you the story that I had with my mom, but this is the beginning of many stories, many that I've talked with that are in the afterlife, to let you know, first of all, that we don't die, that we just go on to another world, and that we can still communicate with our loved ones. And so when people come to me, I can tell them what they're saying and we can have conversation. And some that have transitioned, one person that transitioned that I have seen many times, especially right after his passing, but my dad was on the other side and we worked together to help this person transition. And going out in the middle of the night with spirits and transitioning with a little child. There have been so many things that I have had, I'll call it an opportunity to be with those that have transitioned, to show them love and to talk with people that are on the other side and to see people that are grieving find resolution to the loss of their loved ones. The one thing that I can say from this is that we need to live life to the fullest. Enjoy every single day. Celebrate who you are. Oftentimes we are in a world that creates, right now even, much fear that people are living with. And when we are living with fear, we forget to live. All we think about is what we don't know is happening. And so sometimes, even though it's easy for me to say, we need to find what good is in a day and to experience how you enjoy life rather than what's wrong with it. Again, I've worked with many populations. I've worked with combat vets coming from Vietnam that were suffering extreme PTSD and helped them find a way to live again. I worked with men in closed custody prison and helped them to find their way back to talking with their families and finding a way to get back into life so that it can be a better place than the way they left it. So I've been able to use all these experiences that I've had to help other people with their life. So today, I'm going to leave you now, and hopefully you look forward to the next videos that I do, that I'll be sharing more of my stories, as well as mystical ones, because I've had so many of those too. And it's been a joyous life for me. Sometimes it's been really difficult and really hard, but I look at all those things as an education, and I'm grateful that I've lived the life that I've had, even though sometimes seemed to be difficult, but now I look at it differently. So now I go out and I just spread love and work with homeless people and other people that just that I see at coffee, and sometimes I go downtown and just sit and I just visualize my heart is open and sending love everywhere. And I think that's what we need to do right now, is to live life to the fullest. Sometimes we hear what other people think we should do or how we should live, whether it's teachers or parents or well-meaning people, and give us a number and put us in a group. And I've never been able to live in a box that other people have set, because I am different. And it has worked with me to live that way. And so I'll be talking more about that and more ideas with I hope that you will take and start to use in your life. So with all of that, got my hat on, and I'm off to go downtown to have a cup of coffee and spread my light as well wherever I can share it. And right now I'm sharing it with you, and I hope you have a good life, and I will talk to you on my next visit. Bye-bye.